do it all you can to make the company like grow, to like succeed and everything, but do think about yourself as well, because companies are also think about their business. You need to think about yourself as well, right? It's a very important one.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Captain's Cabin, your oasis of salty knowledge amidst the raging seas of the tech markets. And I'm your host, Marty the Cool Recruiter, but hey, you can simply call me Captain. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and review our show, as this will tremendously help this fledgling podcast of ours truly take off. And today we're going to talk about product design, and I have a product designer's product designer. I mean, this guy showed me the ropes back when I was working as, say, a part-time head of talent for a startup. He's an amazing product designer, and he's someone who loves to share his knowledge. Makson is with us today, or Max, as I like to call him. Makson is currently gainfully employed at Meta, so that's Facebook for us dinosaurs out there, as a product designer. But he brings 12 odd years of experience to the table. Most of them working as a product designer, right, for early stage startups and big tech. And so, without further ado, I give you the floor. Makson Serpa, right? I got your family name pronunciation right?
You know, the funny part is, first, like, thank you for inviting me here. Definitely a pleasure. For two reasons. First, to talk about design, but for the most special one is because, like, I'm talking to you again, and you know that you know that I admire your work. So without bragging too much about ourselves here, yes, like I have someone that these days they said like, "Are you a Sherpa?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said like, "No, the famous Sherpas." And I didn't know. I said, like my surname is actually from Portugal. Not necessarily from the Sherpas. And then I discovered that some English native would call me like the Sherpas, right? From I forgot what is the region they are from, the one that climbs the mountains and everything.
The mountains.
The tough,
Tibet, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the mountains. So it is pronounced Serpa without the H. But I think it's pretty hard to pronounce for some people, especially like Makson. I tell everyone that when I meet anyone, like I just call me Max. It's much easier. Even my mom calls me that. But yeah, a pleasure to be here.
Now we need to talk about gossip, man. I want to know something about you that very few people know. That in the Captain's Cabin, it's called we call it cabin gossip. And I think you got some very crispy gossip for us today. So please spill the beans.
Well, you can ask me some of the ones that I shared with you directly. I can tell you like some, like there are things in my life that most people don't know exactly how like I became a designer, for example, right? Like what was my career path per se, and it's pretty much I didn't have any choice. If like my most vivid memories from myself, from high school or school per se, was just me drawing around the notebooks, like when in the mathematics classes, for example, or other classes that I didn't like. And that was a very important part of my life if I look back, because when I look back to my high school moments, drawing was something that myself and other 4 friends would do most of the time. And for us, it was a competition, right? So we would draw and we show each other the drawings, and like someone will always win. Say, oh, this guy, you rock it. And I would never rock it because I had my best friend. He always drew better than me. And I always like, man, I need to be better than him, you know? And then we had another friend that he couldn't, like, it's not that he couldn't, but he didn't have like the talents to, at that point, to draw original designs. And for us, it was very important to be original designs and not copy for like Dragon Ball, for example. Right. So he would bring like Dragon Ball redesigns, and we would like say, no, you're not allowed, man. Like it's just the design, the original designs here. So this competition brought me to my career. Like it really did. Another thing like people don't know about myself is that I never wanted to become a designer. I actually wanted to become an illustrator. So that was my main dream, right? So we'll talk about the first Toy Story moment. And like this big boom of Pixar, right, in the world. And my dream was, okay, I need to become a Pixar illustrator, like, you know, a concept artist or something like that. Yeah. And even like drawing my whole life, man, I have never been enough for illustrators. Like they're so good, right?
I know.
So when I needed to decide my career, there were not other paths per se than design, right? And one that I know you like, and it's the spicy one. At a certain point of my life, I was already like, you know, I already have my first tablet, right? My Wacom tablet, which was like, oh man, like if someone had a Wacom in Brazil, oh, you had money to spend in design. And I got because my aunt decided to invest on me. So she bought like one for me, a used one, and I had that one and I needed to put in practice, right? And then I was working this very early moment of my design career, just trying to get as many jobs I could just to practice design and everything. And the guy that sold me my Wacom was like a big, like is like a person that treats like images, right? So I don't remember what is the name exactly for this role, but he would bring like, you know, if someone would have an advertisement picture, he would create, manipulate the pictures and everything, make it like as much crispy and beautiful as possible.
Touch up artist or something, right?
Yeah. And he told me when he sold my Wacom, I have a job here, a freelancer. If you want to get, because I have so many others, I'm not sure I can give attention to this one. That sounded like a dream. And I said, no way I'm getting my first freelancer here. That's gonna be good. And he said, you know, it's gonna be easy. It's just they're gonna send you some images, and you're gonna crop these images, and you're gonna send them cropped to me back. And I said, easy. You know, that's gonna be easy. He said, yeah, it's gonna just be like some objects. So there are no many like, you know, challenges like hair, like, you know, cutting hair in the past before the AI and all of the Photoshop's new features was very impossible, right? Very hard to do. So they said, no, it's just objects. And I said, man, that's... It was
time
hard,
consuming.
Right?
It was time consuming because I, as a web designer, I've done it with the freehand selection tool. But I mean, you need to have a heck of a steady hand, and you need to have a precise mouse
and do all the overlays, hair over hair, and kind of like you need to redo some hairs with the tablet, right? You need to paint hair to look natural because it was really hard to cut the hair in an effective way. So when he said it was just object, I said, that's okay, man. I can do for this much. And it was not that much. Because for me, it was like, okay, this is practice. And it's going to just be objects. So he sent me over the link to download the objects. And I'm there at home, closed doors. My father and my mom didn't know what I was going to see at that moment. Then I opened the first PSD file, and when it opens, it's this big dildo with a lot of spikes between, and they were not like even spikes. They were like very different spikes between them, like in a huge one. And I got shocked. And then instead of like start cropping up like that one, I start opening all the other PSD files because I wanted to see what else I had there. And it were like, I was like, okay, first that job gave me money, yes, but gave me knowledge about the sex objects or dildos, because there's so many different ones there, man. You think like just about the regular ones that you usually might see somehow in a movie or something. There are like 100 of different ones for different tastes, I would say. And that was my first job. Yeah, and I didn't tell anyone about that because I was like, I would tell my friends, they would be joking about that for the rest of my life. And I said, okay, I'm just keep this quiet and low, and just send back the files to this guy and forget about it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
He's in the past, so now it's all good.
And your friend didn't mention what kind of images you were going to
he was smart. He was smart. He knew I was a junior and he knew he was a senior, so he used that knowledge to just lure me out to get that freelancer.
When I started as a web designer, I used to freelance also, and freelancing involves a lot of business development because you need to find, unless you work with like headhunters that provide you with gigs, and until you make a name for yourself, you need to sort of reach out and find clients, and you can't afford to be too picky at the beginning. At least I couldn't, and I worked 100%. for a guy who wanted to put together a website called Joe's Everyday Girls, and it was an adult, porn kind of site. It was in the world of porn, and it was pretty light. It wasn't like very hardcore stuff, but he was serious about the girl next door aspect, though. They were like very plain looking. I'm sorry, but I mean, we're not talking models here. It was very low budget, and the guy was like he was Italian, and I came to understand that he was like the Frito, like in the Godfather, like the Frito of a crime family. Yeah, and so he gave me all the material, and we're talking like early 2000, like late 90s. He was a bit in advance, ahead of the curve, and I started working through the the material. Let's call it the material, and it was all right. Pretty straightforward job, and I wasn't convinced he was going to make any money out of it, but I had the impression that he was being bankrolled by the more successful members of his family. Just to keep him busy, and when the time came to get paid, he said, "Listen, Marty, I'm a bit short on cash, but what about I hook you up with any of those girls instead as payment?" And I said, "Joe, much obliged, but no, thanks. I'll take the I'll take payment, please." And and he said, "All right, I'll just come back in a week. I'll scratch up the cash." And I came back a week later, and he had this roll of $20 bills with an elastic, and he said, that's what I owe you." And I was like, man, I half expected to see like blood or cocaine on the dollar bills, like, and I thought to myself, all right, it's the last time, man. It's the last time. I need to be more picky when finding clients.
Oh, that's so funny, man. The market in 2008 was interesting for sure, in a small city especially.
But the market in 2024 is also very interesting for different reasons. I see there's a lot of people now looking for jobs that haven't looked before, because there's been quite a few cuts, layoffs, and the word out there seems to be lean, so companies are not really hiring. Yes. If anything, they're laying off people. So with that in mind, I'd like, you've got some experience in that department. You've got experience in finding a job overseas. But first things first, do you have any tips and advice that you could share with fellow designers, be they product designers or UX designers or whatnot, of various experience level looking for a job. You know, some of them are junior and they're started looking. Some of the people I talk to, they haven't looked for a job for years, but now with the current situation, they find themselves suddenly, and I coach them and I help them, you know, get up to speed. But I would like to get your point of view straight from a product designer or a designer perspective.
100%. Yeah, you know, like I was counting today to see how many years I had, kind of like I counted like 14 years, right, in the field. To start has like a sign in a sign design company. So you know, like when they do like the signs with like the vinyl banners. So it has like a blacksmith doing the metal structure and everything. So that was my first job, and I didn't have a space between the blacksmith and myself, so I would like smell the aluminum being like, you know, soldered and everything. And that was it was important beginning for me, because actually I didn't have any opportunity at the point, because first I didn't have experience, and I didn't have any study or university behind me, right? And when I look back all my career path and how I grew up from there to, you know, kind of stepping up in different roles until I became like a product designer per se, right? I see that reflects very well what we see today, and the learnings that I had can be adopted by anyone today. And I usually say that, and there are some important things that everyone needs to understand, especially when they are trying to grow up in their career and like just step up in terms of like salary per se, or just has inequality perspective, craft, right? One of them, and I feel very important, is like find someone that can help you with like feedback, like realistic feedback, right? In the beginning of my career, there was a funny story as well. You know, I'm full of funny stories. And one of them is that 2014, I wanted to buy my first iPhone. It was the 3GS, if you remind that one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that was my first.
That was my first Twitter
as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, funny.
Yeah.
I went to Twitter, and this girl is saying, "I'm selling my iPhone," and because whatever, for some reasons, and I said yes, 100%. Let's meet at the mall. So I go to the mall. She, you know, passes the iPhone, and she asks me like, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a designer," and she says like, "Oh, my husband is also a designer." Okay, we're talking about 2010, right?
Yeah.
2010, 2012, if I remember well, or 2014 perhaps, in Brazil, which really was a big shock when she said what she said, that she just comes to me like as an answer, say, "Yeah, my husband is also a designer," and I say, "Oh yeah, and where he works at?" He works at Apple. And when he says that, like, I got like, my reaction was like, no way he works at Apple. Like, you totally lying to me. Because first, like, we didn't see any Brazilian designers leaving Brazil at that point. It was like pretty impossible for them. We didn't hear about like companies hiring overseas. That was not a thing.
No.
But this guy, his name was like Everaldo Coelho. He was so good. He had like a Nikon company back in Brazil. He would just do icons for systems, and the icons like would like look like Pixar quality as well, right? So I always use Pixar because Pixar is just like the best quality we had at the time in terms of graphics and design. And he decided to leave his company and go work at Apple. And he was one of the first designers that built like the Mail and other apps for Apple. Right. And when she said that, I said, "Please give me your husband's email."
Yeah.
And then she, passed the email, And I sent an email to this guy with like, I said, I don't have anything to lose.
No, for sure.
And I sent an email say, hey, I know you work at Apple. Man, I am just a junior designer. I have some work in here, but I would love if you give me feedback. And this guy started like, with his busy schedule, he started giving me like once a month of feedback on my things. And that became a very important, like a rock, like a solid foundation for me to start like understanding what a good design would look like at the time. So that was a very important part. So looking for like someone that can give you like a solid, concrete feedback. And I remember like when I would ask for peer feedback, I would say, don't tell me good things. I want the bad ones. Those is the ones that I'm looking for. So they would come and say like, this could be better. And I would like just fix my eyes on those things and how to fix those, right? So that was one, so networking is very important. So for mentoring, I have another one, like when I was studying or doing my second university studying in Brazil was user experience design. And I had this person, this colleague there, he was also studying user experience design, but this guy owned a company and he owned a tech company. And it was very clear that we were here like at a low, knowledge, level. And this like we're like 0 to 1. And this guy was like 10 to 11 in knowledge. He would answer the teachers and he almost would teach the teachers back pretty much about business.
All right.
And when I saw that and I said, I need this guy, right? I need to learn from this person. And then I was like building, like I was trying to build my startup, my app. I remember at that point it was like which would connect mechanics with broken cars. And it was called like I forgot, it's a help car, something like that. And then I sent to him all the screens, all the business idea, how we would like, make money, things like that. I say, could you give me feedback? And he would like spend his time and give like, bullet point feedbacks and how things were good, what things were not good and things like that. Okay, so wait a minute, just passing time, like he leaves the university, I don't see this guy anymore. I finish my university, I go work in another state. I don't hear about this person anymore in my life. And then 3 years after, I get a call, and when I answer the call, he say, "Hey Max, do you remember me?" And then his name is Alessio Alionso, and I say, "Yeah, we studied together, right?" I say, "Yeah." So hear me out. I sold that company that I own, and I came to San Francisco, California, and I passed through like a process called like 500 startups. And they fund me for a new project. And I'm looking for a designer to start this company.
Nice.
Do you want to join me? And then that was, till now, the most challenging job of my whole life. And it was all because of networking.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the most important one is like get concrete feedback and get like mentor, like a mentorship from someone that can give you, tips in how to progress in your career.
And network in general, all right, is especially nowadays with with the market, the job market that we have, when there are there are many job postings, but there are like thousands of candidates, and it's very hard to break through, because first of all, when you apply, now you need to make it through the ATS or the robots or the AI that's sorting through, and that's not up to snuff usually. So there's a lot of false negatives, so you can get thrown in the garbage for no good reason. And if you make it past that, then you're one of 1,000 other candidates, and then the recruiter on the other end or the HR on the other end, they're gonna give like 5 seconds to your profile before moving on to the next. So it's very difficult.
100%.
And networking is the way to do it. And I even know of companies that they they will not post the jobs they have. They'll use their network first and foremost. So they'll work with a boutique headhunter, or they'll use word of mouth, and or even I spoke to a head of marketing, Jane. She would just be a headhunter herself and identify, like on LinkedIn, who she would like to work with and reach out to those people. The same thing that I do, she would do, and to try and poach someone from somewhere else. But the bottom line is, you need to have that network in place. You need to meet people. You need to with the mindset of getting to know people, of even like offering what you can offer, and not just like reaching out to ask for jobs, but really to build that network and to be top of mind. When, like you mentioned, when someone launches a new venture or a new startup, they'll think about you and like, oh yeah, I know this designer, this great designer. And so you circumvent all that, like, looking online, applying, and all that, those shenanigans that...
I agree. And that's the important part. I have a friend that's trying to find a job right now, and I told her, like, go to meetings even if you're not getting necessarily the opportunity right away. If people just are waiting to talk with you, because once the opportunity is open, perhaps who is going to get the job is the name that's going to come to their mind first, and hopefully it's yours because you have talked with them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. So this was one. For designers, again, it's very important for us to build in a good craft design. So excellence, quality, and design, right? So when we used to say, like, when it was, or in the visual design, before product design, we had the visual. We were more called like visual designers, right? So we had the UX and visual design as part of the role, and the product kind of brings the business part of it together. But we used to call it pixel perfect. Not necessarily we use that terminology anymore, but that kind of like reflects, like, you must be excellent in craft. Even today, even product is a lot about business and how you, it's more about like how you decide to design than like what exactly your design looks like, especially because you have design system right now. So you can use the build blocks just to build that screen, and like how you decided to do is much more important. Craft and excellence in design, when the person looks your design, it will still be very important point for them, right? And for that, I feel myself not very motivated to do things by myself, right? Without a job or a task per se.
Right.
So you need to find like motivation. You need to find a purpose of why you're doing things by yourself. So what I usually used to do is I would find something that I didn't like, and I would try to rebuild that from a point of view of design and UX, and I would create like a use case like from that, right? So it wasn't an official work, but I would call it like a proposal to reform or rebuild or redesign of that specific flow. So for me, what got me a job, my first product design job, was that I had this like airline company. So let's just say like a United Airlines. So let's just say because people will relate, because if I say a Brazilian one, they won't relate, right? So let's say United Airlines. And I used to use this airline, and I didn't like their the buying ticket process and selecting the seats in the airplane. It was pretty bad. So I redesigned, and I did like the motion design, the animations, micro interactions, all those things. And I created a page where I laid out the reasons I did, the competitors and everything I looked before I designed. And when someone saw that, they said, okay, let's give this guy a job.
Yeah.
Because before that specific design, I sat with 4 founders of like the design studios that would accept product designers at the moment, because it was very new role in 2014. And they would say the same to me. They say, you don't have experience. And no one would give me an opportunity because I didn't have an experience. So I needed to do that and leave my city to get my first job as a product designer. you know.
Yeah, you were
So very important,
were
yeah,
building your portfolio, right? That's the same advice I give to engineers, coders. Like, have that GitHub or code repository, and the projects that you do, even for fun, put it there. Perhaps the exercises you've been doing as part of the boot camp, put it there. It's the equivalent of your portfolio. It's the same as the portfolio is for an artist. So when you're starting, by definition, you don't have that many professional contracts under your belt that you can put on your portfolio. But your idea of redoing something that's been done rather shoddily, and let's be honest, there's a lot of that online. There's a lot of things that could be redone in a more user-friendly way, say.
Yeah, I used to go to like the city and look for like people that I would know, or like in somehow we're doing like some entrepreneurship things. So I remember these two girls that were doing like cupcakes, and they wanted to put like the presents online, and I told them like I can do this for not much. I don't need to ask you too much. And I can do the whole branding and web design for you. You pay more for like the coding part, which is something that I don't know how to do. And those things gave me portfolio for the opportunities that would come ahead.
Gotcha. So to break it down, your advice for job seekers would be, and especially junior one, would be to find a mentor, to network, whatever stage in your career, to network, and also to build that portfolio if needed, doing pro bono work for clients. Any other
follow
advice?
The best designers out there.
Follow
the best designers out there, because one of the problems of like I try to hire for a Wingo card. And one of the things that I saw when interviewing the people is that they not necessarily had a very good self-critic sense on them, right? So if the mentor is not giving that, they need to have good references, right? So follow the best ones out there. Look at your designs, look at their designs. What is missing there? You need to find by yourself if you don't have a mentor, and you need to be very critic of things you're doing, because otherwise, again, the market is not easy. The market is not fun. The market is not kind.
It's gnarly,
so
man.
You must be a little bit of that of your for your own work in order to just stand up from the rest, right? And then another one, which is this took me a lot of time, because I can tell you that I'm a very passionate person, right? So even like when I was a teenager, I would find like a girl, I would just love that girl. And if like when I was like growing up and I was being able to get into the clubs, right? If I would find someone, I would just look for that person. If that person would just kick me out, I wouldn't look for another one, because I'm that kind of person, right? And then that was also a reflection of my work. So I would want to work like at Pixar, let's say so, right? And I would try to get Pixar. And then Pixar would say, you're not enough for us. And then I would be very disappointed. And then it took me time to understand that the market is like almost like a sales, right? You need to be a salesperson. You need to call as many clients as possible, because from all these like 100 clients you're gonna try to reach, perhaps one will buy your product, right? So I heard a long time ago, I do not know who created this rule, but I took this to my heart, which is the rule of 100 emails, right? So what it means is just like when you're trying to get a new job, reach as many company as possible at once, right? So send 100 emails. Not necessarily the 100 is the number, it can be less, but you got it. You need to be not as precise you want it necessarily at the beginning to get this is exactly company, but you need to open need to be more flexible, right?
All right.
So that was a very important rule for me. and then from there, like I started breaking this. So start with the least wanted ones first.
Yeah. Okay.
So
to get some practice.
you go there. Yes, to get some practice, understand the patterns that like you're hearing. What necessarily task are you getting from this like interviews? What exactly they're looking to hear? And then you start building like your script, right? When I was in Brazil and I was in this company, right? It was 3.5 years already in that company that I joined from my colleague. The company was just growing so fast. It's still like one of the biggest startups in Brazil. I felt I was too comfortable, and I said, okay, it's time for me to get an overseas company, an overseas opportunity, leave Brazil and see how the world looks like, because they say that like there the challenges are bigger, right? Other markets are bigger. That was a perception we had at the time. So I started like planning how to do it. And I remember I tried Meta at the time, Facebook, for the first time, and I couldn't pass to the second interview. And I got it. It was like it was because I didn't understand the patterns, and I have never done any of those dynamics that big companies would do at the time. Second, my English was much worse at the time because I didn't have any practice in like a native English country, right?
Right.
So from getting like kicked out of Meta, I understood that I shouldn't go to another big one before understanding the patterns. So that's what I did. And I did along many smaller ones. And I remember I wrote all the patterns, all the mistakes, all the main questions, and I printed out and I put it in a wall behind my computer, because when people would ask me, I would just look, to the wall and understand exactly what was they were looking for to hear, right? So that's a very important one. The rule of 100 emails. Catch as much as possible, or reach as much as possible.
I would add, not only to get that 100 or that volume, but also do it in a way that, you do it with intent, right? You do it with you're not using like a mass mailer to send your resumes to 100. You need each of them. You need to, identify and reach out to try and find who the hiring manager is, reach out to them and do it in a way that's it's a bit more time consuming than just quick apply, but it's got a much higher success rate, right? I think
each of these companies are companies that you would join,
right?
I'm not saying, I'm definitely not saying to reach companies that you would never join just to use the opportunity to learn. All companies I reached are companies that I had some understanding of, like I related with their mission, but they were not companies that I looked first when thinking about joining, right? A new company. But definitely, companies that you would join because maybe the opportunity is there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, so that's another good piece of advice to add to the list. So find a mentor, focus on networking, get your portfolio, follow the best out there, learn from the best. You're not in a vacuum, and don't focus on just the one, but like you go get like 100 or thereabouts, but apply on more than one, apply intelligently on more than one company, and start with the ones that you're the least interested in, so that if you bomb the interview, or if you're not that in shape. So some of the people I talk to, some of the candidates, they haven't looked for a job in a decade, right? So they're rusted. So obviously the first few interviews are gonna be rough, right? I get that with the screening interview I do with them. It's pretty rough, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
There's one thing. There's one very important is, you if you're young and you're trying to grow, or you're trying to grow in your career, you feel like your salary is not at the stage it should be, right?
Right.
And you have time ahead of you, so you don't have a family, you don't have maybe kids, So the responsibilities are lower on your shoulders than like maybe like a, you know, someone that has like is renting
Family.
a place by themselves and helping. Yes. Don't focus on your current salary. Do not focus on that. It's very important for you to be flexible, to get lower salary next if that's gonna give you more experience. So that's also a story that I lived, because I remember I was focused on one specific salary, and it looked the salary of the dreams. And I finally got it, Marty. I got the call. It was like a small agency in the city. They gave me that salary. They signed the papers, everything. And I said, yes. I came back to my mom. I still used to live with my mom and dad. And I told them I got the salary of my dreams. And then first week, a beautiful thing. The owner of the agency would bring like chocolate to us. It was just a perfect experience, you know? And I was already like designing my first advertisement from like a Jeep campaign.
A Jeep?
You know?
Nice.
Yeah, I was a Jeep retailer
Jeeps.
Of the city, right? So I did all the dust and the mud thing. It was beautiful, man. I used all my skills in there. First week, I got a call. Because again, I was trying to reach as many possible agencies at the point. Yeah. So this one delayed to come back to me and decided to come back a week or 2 weeks after I sent the you know my interest. And then I called this call. The guy is called like Valdemar Segundo, which is like the second. We call him the second. He calls me and say, "Hey, we have an opportunity here," and their agency were much better than the one that I was, and they were working for much better brands. So that was very important for creative agencies, right? So if you had a better brand behind you, it's like a company right now, right? If you work at like, I don't know, Meta or whatever the company, people look at you and say, "Oh, this guy has the skills." Right? Because they hired him for this responsibility at this company, right? So that point was brands. And he said, "I have all these brands and everything. I have a chair, I have an iMac, and I have half of your salary. That's what I have." And I had just 1 week of the beautiful salary. And I decided just to come back and reduce my salary and join this company. So what happened next is the important thing. I stayed only 1 year in this new agency for the half of salary, and when I joined the new company after 1 year of this company, it was the double of the salary that I always wanted.
Of the dream one,
You see?
One step back,
the dream one.
Three steps forward.
Is the trick? Is a very important trick for new ones. So don't wear the uniform. Wear the uniform as you like are in the company. Do it all you can to make the company like grow, to like succeed and everything, but do think about yourself as well, because companies are also think about their business. You need to think about yourself as well, right? It's a very important one. That was awesome. That was something that I took from myself to my heart.
So don't be afraid to take a strategic pay rate if it's going to bring you closer to. It's going to help build your credibility in your portfolio and give you access to, the kinds of positions that you're looking for. Like that. Take one step back if it's clear that it's going to give you a jumping point and send you like 3-4 steps forward, right? I like that. I like that. It also highlights the importance of having like a roadmap or a strategy about career growth. That's one of the questions that a lot of employers will ask is, what's your short-term, mid-term plan, like career objectives and whatnot. And I always advise candidates to have something, but you need to have something that is flexible. And if it's written in stone, especially something like, within 1 year I want to have a corner office, or I want to have a VP title, or any of those things that are at the end of the day, in my own opinion, irrelevant. That's not going to work. And the other opposite either is like, I'll go where the wind takes me, or, you know, whatever, que sera sera, or whatever. You know, like, you get all philosophical about not having a plan. That's not going to work either. You need to have, you know, a strong idea of where you're going whilst remaining flexible and adaptable, because things never quite turn out exactly the way we expect them to now, do they?
So important. And like, so important to, in the beginning, be flexible to work in different types of company. So
right.
Not necessarily follow my steps, because I was in a different generation, and we didn't have product design as we have right now. But I work as a graphic designer. I work as a packaging designer. So I had some snacks packages out there and some beers labels out there. I work in, like, you know, creative agents as a creative director. So for advertisement, right? I work in a branding company. So to brand, like, brands, new branding companies. I work like in web agencies. So all that knowledge, and plus my love for illustration, made me capable to, for example, join Wingo Card as the first designer, because it gave me the skills to give all the company resources they needed in the beginning without, like, needing a whole team per se, right? Yeah. So early stage small startups needs this more like complete designers to help them, right? My creative manager, the second guy, right? And he used to ask me, like, Serpinha, which was my nickname there because of the Serpa guy, right? So I became the small version. And he used to say, like, he used to ask me, like, where you want to, like, why you want to be, like, where you want to like, what exactly you want to be in, like, in 5 years, right? Or in your career. And I used to tell him, like, I want to be the 6th best designer in the world. And he would, like, why? Why not the first, the best one? And I used to say, like, oh, it's because I just want to be recognized as a very good designer and being hired by any company because I'm the 6th in the list, but not have all the responsibilities of the first on my shoulders.
Smart answer, man. Smart answer. And I get that. I get that 100%, buddy.
I still think it was a wise. I still like that one, to be honest.
It's a wise answer, and it's very precise. Not the 5th, not the 7th, the 6th. You know, it's gotta be like, it's gotta be very precise like that.
Not to use like Steve Jobs, like when he said, like, just, like, be hungry or still hungry, right? Keep hungry, keep foolish, type of thing. But it's very important for you to, like, to aim the moon to hit the ceiling, right? So you need to think, like, very highly about where you want to go, because if you too low expectations for yourself, if you lower your expectations for yourself to, like, a rational perspective, too rational, let's say, so maybe you're not gonna hit where you could be, right? So like aiming at Pixar, it was impossible for me. It was impossible for many of the Brazilians out there, but it was something that for me was the highest scale of greatness I could have ever achieved in my life, right? Yeah. And I remember when I was in this branding company, I was watching Mad Men. Have you watched Mad Men? Of
course.
Yes, the creative agency, right? A series. And Donald Draper, he said something that I rewinded many times, and I wrote it on my notebook to remember forever, like when I needed that message, right? He said this. He said, like, I don't want a Jaguar, I want a Chevy, because it was more important brand at the point. So he wanted a Chevy as a client. It was more important than Jaguar at that point. And he said, I don't want Mohawk, I want American Airlines. I don't want Dunlop, I want Firestone, right? And that's what I used to say to me. Like, I don't want this small thing. I want, like, this big one here, So that was partially a very important piece that made me, like, stay or be or land where I am right now, you know? So it's important for you to dream highly about yourself and about where you want to be and work towards it.
Yeah, if you aim high, like if you aim for the moon and you fall somewhat short, where you fall is still pretty dope. It's still pretty cool, right? Whereas if you aim for the bare minimum and you fall short, then you're in the reeds, man. You know, you're in the sewers there.
So true. So true.
But I think the mindset is also key, meaning that if you aim for the moon, you need to be psychologically ready that you may not get it, and that's all right. You know, but that's the whole like different. That's the mindset you should have in life, like to be adaptable. You know, and not to be completely broken if you don't land on the moon. Realizing that a little short of the moon is still a pretty freaking cool place to be, right? It's all about mindset too.
And do not get frustrated. Like, right, so important, so important. Do not get frustrated if you didn't get the job. Do not get frustrated if your design has been called has not good. The best design has maybe another one that's being compared to your design, right? Do not get frustrated. Use that as a motor, right? So that's like there's a lyric from a Brazilian rap that he says like, you want to know what is the reason of life? Forward, right? So that's what I used to tell. That's what I used to tell myself every time when I didn't get a job, when I didn't get the opportunity of my dreams, I used to tell myself, that's no problem. From now on, forward, let's get the next one, right? Because frustration won't help you get anywhere. So don't get frustrated, right? It's not your fault. It's probably the market. It's probably someone that you talked. It's probably a word that you didn't use. It's probably you're not native English and perhaps you didn't understand you properly at the time. Forward, right?
Forward, yeah, exactly. On to the next, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
And now is the time for me to get on my soapbox and go for a Captain Rant. Dude, I need to get your opinion on something. There's a lot of AI generated art on social media now, especially on LinkedIn. I see they're easy to spot because they're all in the same general style basically, and they make me puke a little bit. I can't stand them. I mean, when I'm scrolling down my feed to see what's going on in the market, and I see one of those like square pictures with like, I don't know, guys floating in a donuts in a kind of a cheap Dolly inspiration stuff. I don't even read what that person has to say. I'm like, ugh, it just turns me off so bad. And I've spoken to other fellow tech practitioners, and friends and whatnot, and the people seem divided. Some of them love them, some of them hate them.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get the point of view of a professional.
I think like AI is here, and there's no doubt it will impact all of us by somehow, right? Some will impact more, some impact less. But for me, it's like when you look back and how they used to build cars, right? So they had so many humans putting all the pieces together to build a car. It was a very human, hand thing, right? And right now, you see that the humans are pretty much just controlling some computers that makes the machines do the work.
Yeah.
And I think like for some work, it will definitely reduce the amount of humans we have. And then we have humans controlling these things, right? And I do think this will happen with art somehow. And for concept artists, for example, right? They're trying to bring new concepts of like characters or things like that for games and things like that. I feel that somehow, or they will be reduced somehow, and that's the problem. It will impact a lot the juniors. Always the juniors get impacted.
Always the juniors.
That's a big problem. That's a big problem in the market. Juniors are not being understood. They're not being well received. they're not being onboarded in the market, and they're not becoming the seniors they should be, right? So if it impacts the juniors, what happens is the seniors will get this new AI thing. It will lead to as many exploration by like a second as they needed, and that will replace some like some people in the way. So I think like there's no way we can pretty much block this new thing happening.
Of course not.
In music, I think yes, it will change. Maybe perhaps some mixers or DJs or some people behind will be probably replaced. It will just impact so many people, right? It will impact product designers, that's for sure, because perhaps some things they're less artist or less art related and more like process ops might be impacted.
Yeah, and you make an important point, is that it is my opinion, at least, that the creativity, the pure creation part of it, is not something that can be handled by AI. And let me give you an example. I'm a child of the 90s, right? I was born and raised on Nirvana and Kurt Cobain and grunge. And nowadays, there's a lot of songs written by AI, as if Nirvana were still around, as if Cobain didn't shoot himself. And and I listen to them, and what strikes me is that without exception, they all have all the ingredients: distortion, power chords, drop D tuning, dark nonsense, lyrics, raspy voice. Everything is there. The soul isn't there. The Kurt Cobain is not there. So there's they're not. The soul is missing. I think there's more. And that's where I wax a bit philosophical, but there's more to being a human being than a bunch of supercomputers cranking numbers, be they quantum or not. And so the purely creative process, I posit that it can't be completely outsourced to AI and computers.
I agree. Like none of us. I'm not going to pose myself as someone that predict things. But if I could somehow try to predict something, is what you said very important to me. Like there's no soul in there. Just look at the cars that we have right now. Yeah, they all look exactly the same. Yeah, like we do not have Corvettes as we had before. We do not have Camaros as we had before. They look, their structure look the same. So they became some sort of like utilitarian more than something you would brag about the design. Let's say. I think if that comes to the rest of the work out there, like product design, art, music, etc., we will get used to it because it is what we have. But it will be very clear that there's no much soul in there for those that came before that generation.
It's true. That's the thing with the images on social media. They're cookie cutter, basically, man. They're like boom, 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 boom.
I mean, the good part is that perhaps new entrepreneur or new companies that didn't have money enough to pay for those things, now they have for very cheap, so they can afford having some good graphics or good images, because stock images in some countries are very expensive. Yeah, they are. They are very expensive.
I know.
Before Unsplash came, we just had like the premium stock options, and they were very expensive. So now people can create, so they can give a face, perhaps not the best, but a face for the companies. So it has the good side of it, but like everything in life, nothing comes for free. So it will impact a portion of people and a portion of lives or jobs or roles.
And we're seeing some pushback about AI generated content. I have a friend who's a board game designer, And there's one of the ways that it distribute. One of his channels is so print and play channel. So basically, you put your game out there, and people can download it for a fee, print the board and the pieces. And the rules are very, very specific. If any of your art is AI generated, you can't use the platform. It's not that you need to put a disclaimer that this has been. No, you can't. And you'll get. If you try and swindle your way in, you'll get caught. There's still ways that they're gonna spot that. No, that's AI generated. You're out. So there's a bit of I can see a bit of pushback towards that. It's a very indie thing, a very indie way to distribute your games, and what they don't want is for designers to get shortchanged by that, and also to have all the games have the same freaking art style.
Exactly. Again, I feel like if we look back to this car movement and everything, I see that we always have some resistance coming. The resistance comes from like pretty much we as a humans we don't adapt too much well to new information, right? That happens for everything. For example, when we do a rebranding, you expect that some of the users of that brand will complain. Will become haters of the new brand,
of course,
because we have some aversion of new things when you used to the old ones, right? So I do expect some resistance to come, and it would be beneficial for the market. I just don't think this is something that we can revert. To be completely honest,
no, we can't.
And
we can't put the genie back in the bottle. The Pandora box is open, but we can give guidelines to the genie, right? I think that you made a very good point.
True.
It's great for like prototyping. It's great for putting something together quickly. And it is a tool. It is a tool that can allow you to come up with a first draft or something. Like to give you an outline to work with.
Great example.
It speeds things up. Use that as a tool, and I agree with you. It's not going anywhere. But the idea is to use it as a tool and not as a as a replacement, complete replacement.
You said it so correctly, and the fact that no soul will be there if you use it as the main source. And like for us right now, we as a product designers, we use AI to help us build what we would like be a placeholder for a text. We're not content designers, but that's a very helpful to give the first layer of it. But we are, I feel like we're fortunate to like work in a meta, having so many content designers. We come with these first layers and they give it soul, or even rewrite it, but they understand what is the purpose of that text, right?
Exactly.
But some people that do not have the content designers or will not use the content designs because for them there's no value because now they have AI out there. Will see their companies being placed as like with no soul. Like it's pretty much that. You're gonna see it does look like a very generic company. So it's important for us to realize that we should use it to help, not necessarily to build.
Not to create.
The final pieces.
Yeah. True. Agreed. Amen to that. Amen to that. And with the slew of content I see, not just the images, but also the written content on LinkedIn, it baffles me that when I start to write something like a post, it just there's a prompt saying like, would you like to use AI to write it for you? And like the platform itself, I think that's wrong. The platform itself is like, proposing, well, why don't you let our computer write it and just go watch television or something? Because if you go down that route, it'll be like AI posting on LinkedIn and another AI commenting on the posts, and it's just computers chatting, and perhaps you're going to have some AI acting like a troll and trolling the whatever. And in the meantime, what are we going to do, right? Sit by and watch. it just doesn't make sense. I was like, yeah.
Sometimes I use AI to write me like, presentations, or just help me to write the presentations. And that reflects in a very good presentation, a very correct writing, very clear, right? A sharp presentation. But the problem that comes with it is that it just loses a little bit of the life, right? Of the brightness, of the little mistakes you might do or make with that presentation that makes it human, right?
Yeah, I think we're being both very spiritual, but there's something more. I'm convinced there's something more to us than just computers.
Yeah.
And when I hear about, I've said it before, but when I hear about Elon Musk saying that he's going to download his brain in a quantum computer and live forever because the world needs him forever, I guess. I'm just like, yeah, that ain't gonna work, dude. That ain't gonna work, dude. Although he's a bit of a whack job, so I don't know what the end result will be, but it's not gonna work. Well, my friend, thank you for taking the time today. Great advice for job seekers. Great chat on AI, and then just great all around anecdotes and stuff, man. I was super happy you joined me this morning.
There's a cherry on the top.
Yeah, with a cherry on top. Exactly. So I don't know if you have any parting words of wisdom. I'd like to ask in the end if there's anything you'd like to share with the audience before we call it a wrap.
Yeah, I think like anything was said throughout this conversation. I actually feel like we have talked about the most important parts of anyone that wants to progress in their career or just become like what they want to be, right? So it's just, again, it's very important for them just to aim highly about themselves, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. We're just talking about mistakes and AI. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because I remember the first time when working off this company that they came from the San Francisco, right? I remember the first time I needed to do a presentation about the work I was doing. They have at this time hired some Americans, some North Americans, and for me it was, I just had some classes of English, but I needed to present in English because these people would be in this meeting, and I remember presenting to them. And after that, coming back to my CEO and asking like, how was it? I was very afraid of my English. I feel it was pretty bad. And he said, Max, it was actually good. But there's one thing that's pretty clear when you speak in English, and you must correct that. And I asked like, what? And he said like, you're trying to make it too correct. You're just like thinking too much to say the words. And it's clear that you're trying to make things like very correctly from the grammatically speaking, but because of that, you're missing the context. You're just not giving it everything you could. Yeah. So just don't be afraid of speaking. So that's not just for speaking, for anything else, right? Just don't be afraid of jumping in bigger challenges when you have a hand like in front of you. Don't be afraid. Don't think you are not enough to them. Just think that you can do it, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And that's
advice.
it. Was a pleasure.
Advice.
Was a pleasure. Yeah,
Likewise,
it was a pleasure being here. I wouldn't even consider this like actually I'm participating on a podcast. Was actually like I feel like we're just like for so long we needed to talk, and then we're like back in a Zoom call and we're chatting about everything that's happening in the market. It was super fun. I really loved this conversation. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Absolutely. It was one of our chats for back when we were both working at Wingo Card, and I say we should do that more often. It doesn't have to be a podcast, 100%. But just catching up with one another. How's that sound?
100%. 100%. Yes, I'm down for that.